Hello and welcome to Filmi Ladies. Welcome back to the rainbow this beautiful spring. We are talking about green today.
Yay.
Having already done an episode on envy, green is a little bit of a challenge for me. We could have done eco. We could
Mhm.
have done, here in the United States, green equals current paper currency. We could have done, kind of money and greed, but of course we've done a greed episode already too. So I don't know, green was hard, and I went in a couple of different directions and wasn't really happy with what I was coming up with, but I think you had an easier time. Is that right?
Yeah. I there was a Malayalam movie called Sudani from Nigeria, which I'd been wanting to watch for a long time, and this episode gave me the perfect excuse. Because for those of you who may not know, the Nigerian national flag is actually just three stripes, three vertical stripes. So it's green, white, and green. And the green represents agriculture and sort of like nature's bounty, because Nigeria is primarily an agrarian country, although of course they also make a lot of money from like crude oil and stuff, but crude oil is also nature's bounty. So green is just everywhere in Nigeria, like everywhere, like the flag. Sports uniforms are always like, and it's like a very specific dark green, like it's literally the color of like fields. And official buildings have green on them. It's a ubiquitous color in Nigeria, and for a country that receives so much rainfall and is like not super far from the equator, and so many parts of Nigeria are still very like forested. Green is also a very common color to see in Nigeria. Anytime even if you're in a big city like in Lagos or Abuja and stuff, there's so many trees, like big like palm trees and coconut trees. And then you get away from the big cities, and if you're like in farmland or something, it's just green, green, green. It also rains almost every day in Nigeria, but it's one of those like short tropical downpours where it's like it's sunny and bright 1 second, and like 5 seconds later it's like raining, but it's gone just as fast. And so it's a very green country, and that's reflected in the flag. So when I knew that there was a Malayalam movie called Sudani from Nigeria, I was like, I gotta watch it. And also, since it's a Malayalam movie set and completely shot in Kerala,
Hmm.
and of course Kerala is also widely known as like one of the greenest, if not the greenest state in India, again because it's so heavily forested and there's so much rain and everything. So just for visual purposes itself, I felt like this movie was going to be so about nature and community and just kind of like more bucolic.
Hmm.
So I wanted to go down that route of nature and community, and being one with the land and stuff like that. And I wanted to get as away from like cities and concrete jungles as possible. So yeah, my movie is Sudani from Nigeria. It's from 2018, and it's such a sweet little movie, very heartwarming.
Nice.
Yeah. What was your movie?
Well,
Tell
uh,
us about your contenders
yeah,
first.
so I did think about envy for a little bit, but because I had had such a hard time thinking about envy for our series on that, I didn't feel like I was going to come up with something I hadn't already
Mm.
considered and rejected. Obviously, you could do a love triangle film that has
Oh,
envy
yeah.
in it, but I wanted to do something a little more different than that. And then I was trying to think of iconic green outfits. And to me, a film that does have iconic green outfits in it is Joda Akbar,
Oh,
like a lot of
okay.
velvet. There's a green veil. And of course, both those lead actors have green eyes, basically.
Yeah.
Kind of thinking about that too. And then I was reminded that that movie is 3.5 hours long, and I couldn't do it, y'all. I
No.
downloaded it from Einthusen. I was about to hit play, and I was like, nah.
You'll have to watch it over like two installments and do it for like yellow or red or
Maybe
something.
2 installments. And this is not to say I remember that film with dislike. I don't, but I just didn't have the energy for it. Um, and then I was thinking more about the sort of money angle and greed. I didn't get anywhere with that really. And then I was thinking about films that are set in forests or jungles. So I also went
Mm.
not eco green, but again, sort of nature, visual nature green. And I believe that I found a list somewhere of like Hindi films set in the forest or the jungle. I'm
Okay.
putting forest in there because in the English I speak, jungle and forest are very different things. I don't actually know what jungle means in Hindi. Um, but
Jungle and forest are the same thing in
okay,
Hindi.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this I would say is more the forest than the jungle, at least for my English. But anyway, so this movie Khoj was on a list of films set in the forest because it
Ah,
is in Nepal, in Kathmandu, but they're on the sort of edge of town quite a bit along. So you
okay.
see a lot of beautiful mountain views, and there's a song with Rishi Kapoor, the star of the film, wandering through the trees and things like that. So it's a
That sounds like classic Rishi.
does. It's a bit of a stretch, frankly, but I was so glad to watch this movie. The setting is beautiful. The setting is kind of neither here nor there to the film, but as we've discussed in other Himalayan mysteries discussions that we've had, it does add to the, kind of what's behind this peak or down this
Mm.
windy road, or and there's something about a car accident. So you can kind
And
of imagine,
I feel like forests are also kind of synonymous with spookiness,
yeah.
right? Like, because you can get lost so easily, and then there's wild animals, which is always a very tempting thought for a viewer.
And this is a Ramsey Brothers film. So I was expecting full Haveli creatures, lots of nighttime forest activity. It's not
Yeah.
kind of Ramsey Brothers film.
Okay.
It's a different vibe. And we're going to do my film second in this episode, listeners, so that if you want to avoid spoilers for this movie, you can just check out when I start talking again about my film. But we will hear about Pitu's first.
Okay. So my movie Sudani from Nigeria is it's one of the most popular Malayalam films. It was like a big hit, and I think it was listed in like top 25 Malayalam films list or something. It's very sweet, and the easiest way I can describe the vibe of this movie to our viewers or listeners is if anyone is a fan of R.K. Narayan's Malgudi Days, the books, like I love the man eater of Malgudi and all of those stories. And then Doordarshan, so the Indian TV channel had done a Malgudi Days like TV show when I was younger, and that was like really sweet as well. So it's kind of that same vibe where this movie is set in a small town in Kerala. It's called Malappuram, and apparently Kerala is a very like football crazy state, and there's a specific kind of football that is played in that part, which is called sevens football. So in sevens football, there's only 7 players in the team as opposed to 11. And I don't know if this is a thing that actually happens in Kerala, but at least in the movie, they've shown that they really want to get like, they want to import players from like Nigeria and Ghana. There's like 2 Afghan players. Basically, they want to beat the rival team. So they're like trying to get like the best players they can. And so they try to get players from these other countries. And there's other Indian players that they would love to poach, but they can't afford to. So, like, there's one scene where the guy says, I really want to get that player from Mohan Bagan. And then the other person is like, yeah, but he, like, do you have 5,000 rupees to pay him? And he's like, no. And so they get these players from like Nigeria and Ghana and Afghanistan and places like that, and they're really really good players. But these sports teams are like impoverished, and so they it's not like they can give them a lot of money. But like most sports films are, this is also, I mean, you can call it a sports film, but it's really not about the sport. It's about the feeling of teamwork and camaraderie, and the feeling of belonging. So one funny thing about, so it's a comedy, and one of the funny things about this film is that they keep calling this player, whose name is actually Samuel. So his real life name, the actor's real life name, is Samuel Abiola Robinson, and in the film also his name is Samuel. And people keep calling him, hey, Sudani, I want to take a photo with you, I want to take a selfie with you. And they call him Sudu, like by like lovingly, they'll be like, hey, Sudu. And he very patiently at the beginning of the film says, I'm not from Sudan, you guys, I'm not Sudani, I'm Nigerian, I'm from Nigeria, my name is Samuel. And they're like, yes, same thing. And they take pictures with him. So it's literally called Sudani from Nigeria. And he's this young sweet boy, and the actor is played by a young Nigerian actor who was 19 years old at the time, and he'd done a few shows, like a few TV shows and stuff in Lagos. And then he got an opportunity to audition for this movie. And it was his first international flight that he had ever taken when he went to Kerala in 2017 to shoot for this film. And he knew nothing about Kerala or their culture. And then he loved like the parotas and the curries and all of that. So in the movie as well, the character is this young boy who is basically living in a refugee camp because of the civil wars that were happening in Nigeria. And he basically just has his grandma and his sister, and he really needs money to send home. And so that's why he comes to play for this club in Malappuram. And soon after coming over there, and he's been playing really well and making goals, and he's like a fan favorite, and people always want to take pictures with him and stuff. And there's another Nigerian person on the team as well. Soon after that, he actually gets an injury, and the club does not have enough money to keep him in a private hospital for too long. So eventually he's moved into the manager's office, and the manager's name is Majid. And that actor apparently is like a very famous actor in Kerala cinema, but I this is my first time seeing him. He was so good. He is always debt ridden. He doesn't have a girlfriend. He lives with his mom. He is obsessed with football. And Sudu basically comes to stay in his house. And there's these motley characters that keep visiting, because everyone wants to keep, like, they want to keep visiting this like young football player. And there's all these eccentric characters. Like there's this really old 80 plus man who apparently in his youth was a Kalaripayattu dancer slash fighter. And he comes over there and he's like, I will show you my Kalari. And then Suda's like, okay, like Suda's just lying in bed and like his arm is in a fracture and whatnot. And this guy is like showing him all of the moves and everything. See, Kalari. And then when the other people are like, yeah, yeah, whatever, he's like, country fellows. So this is my new favorite insult, by the way, Beth. Every time I think someone is being very gauche, I'm just going to be like, country fellow. Um, so there's all these cute, eccentric characters. Then there's the mom, and like the older generation doesn't speak any English. And of course, Suru doesn't speak Malayalam. So there's a lot of like sign language and trying to feed him things. And the moms keep giving him things like rotis, like dipped in coconut milk, because apparently it will help him heal. And he's like, okay, I'll eat it, I guess. Um, and the guy who plays Sudu, he has the most angelic smile. He's so cute and he's so boyish. I mean, he's only 19 years old, and he's just lying in bed all day with these people coming in and out and all these funny things happening. And he's just staring at the ceiling and getting bored. And to entertain him, all of these people come, right? And there's a scene when he's in the hospital, and Majid, the manager, he is supposed to call the nurse when the IV drip is getting over so she can replace it with a new drip. But he's watching like a football match on his phone, and he's like getting all excited and everything. And he forgot to call her. And then when the nurse comes, she gives him like a big talking to. She's like, you stupid people who are football people. And I was like, yeah, exactly, football people. So it's a very sweet movie. And there's like a subplot about the manager's stepfather whom he doesn't get along with. And there's a very sweet scene where the stepfather comes to their house, and when he's leaving, he just like waves goodbye. And of course, the manager doesn't care. He's like, yeah, whatever. But he's leaving, and Sudu is looking from his window, and he waves to the stepfather. It's so sweet. And then some scenes from this film were actually shot in Nigeria, apparently. And I was like, oh my God. It's very nice. It's very sweet. And it's very heartwarming to see an Indian film where there's no racism. There's none of this attitude of like, oh, people with dark skin are lesser than us, or people with dark skin just in general are someone to be made fun of for their gimmicks or props. There's none of that. Like, he's literally just treated as he's a football player. He's away from home. He's lonely. We got to take care of him. We got to entertain him however we can, keep his spirits up. And this young actor has acted really well. Like, there's scenes where he's grappling with like homesickness and he's sad. There's a scene where he bursts into tears and he says, I just want to play. Because can you imagine being 19 years old and being an athlete and you're just laid up in bed taking medicines all day long? You want to be out there on the field. And he just starts crying and he's like, I just want to play, manager. And manager's like, I'm sorry, but like, you have a fever. So it's just very sweet. And it gave me like a good sort of insight into a little bit of like culture from the state of Kerala, and what that like football subculture is all about and what the matches are about. There's a very cute song in it called Football, Football. Like, I didn't understand a single word, but the chorus says football, football. And I was like, oh, I like the song. And it's just like a very heartwarming story about how you could be a foreigner in a different country, but you can still find a home over there. And at the end of the film, Sudu actually has made enough money, and he gets a message that his grandmother has died, so he has to go back to Nigeria to be with his sister because now she's all alone. And I teared up. I was like crying when he's at the airport, and the whole village has come to say goodbye, and they're all saying bye. And then I was sad, and then I was like, hopefully there'll be a sequel where Sudu comes back to Kerala, and this time he brings his sister with him, and they settle in that village, and he plays football, and maybe she goes to school or college. And I was like, I don't want him living alone in Nigeria. He has no like support system left. I want him to be here in this village. So it's a very heartwarming, very cozy, sweet movie. It's shot, it's very small in its scope. There's just a few football matches scenes, but almost everything centers around the house and the little room. Oh, and Majid, the manager, desperately wants to get married, and his four friends, who are gluttons, always go with him for these like rishta meetups, and they're just stuffing their faces with snacks while he's talking to girls. All the girls reject Majid, by the way, because he's only 11 standard pass, and they're like, no thanks. And they call these selection matches. So they'll be like, oh, manager is busy today. Why is manager busy? Manager is going for a selection match, which means he's off to see a girl. So it's heartwarming. It's sweet. It's a lovely movie to watch, especially on like, a chilly day with like a cup of coffee or tea and like a throw blanket. It's just very sweet. And I felt very happy seeing Nigerians kind of depicted on TV. And some of the scenes are a little sickly sweet. There's a lot of sweetness in this film, but I think because there's so much comedy, it doesn't come across as cloying, because it could easily come across as saccharine, but it doesn't. And I like some of the references to things like, what it's like to be a refugee of a civil war, what it's like to not have any parents anymore. Like Sudu at age 19 is now the head of the family. Like that's hard. And so there's also a lot of that in it. It's just, I would highly recommend this film to anybody who wants to watch a feel good movie, and if they don't mind shedding a few tears. Yeah, sweet.
That sounds very sweet. Had you heard anything about this before you watched it?
I had vaguely heard about it because I feel like someone, because it's an older movie, it's from 2018, and someone had vaguely mentioned it to me once at a party because I told them I was from Nigeria, and they were like, "Oh, there's an Indian movie that has a Nigerian in it," and I was like, "Wait, what?" And like, they're not just a character actor, like they're in it, and they were like, "Yeah," but they couldn't remember the name, so I googled it, and so it had been at the back of my mind for quite some time, and I just kind of like needed an excuse to pull it out and watch it. And I'm very happy to say that I have done well with my resolution, which was to watch more regional films. I've seen more Malayalam films in the last year and so far than I have in my whole life. So I'm very pleased, and I have more Malayalam films that I want to like get into.
Nice.
My husband has been nagging me to watch Fahad Fazil films because his favorite actor is Fahad Fazil. So I was like, I've watched Pushpa, and he just scoffed at me. So I was like, no, I will tell you like good Fahad Fazil films. So I was like, okay.
Nice. Nice.
So tell us about Khoj. By the way, can I just say I'm shocked to hear that Rishi Kapoor was in a Ramsey Brothers film?
Listen to this cast.
Okay.
Rishi, Nasiruddin Shah, Danny Denzongpa,
Ooh.
okay, then you're like, maybe I can imagine him in a Ramsey Brothers films. I can't remember if he's done another one, but he was in a horror film that I have reported on for this podcast, but now I can't remember if that was a Ramsey film or not. And then Kimi Katkar, who is someone
Okay.
I don't have feelings about one way or the other, but there's something about her I want to note when we talk about this film. And Om Shivpuri is in it for a hot second, and Satish Shah is the main
Oh, okay.
other kind of main person who is the comedy guy.
Mm.
This is a remake of a British film from the 50s called Chase a Crooked Shadow. And when I was
Okay.
following that Wikipedia link, it appears, well, actually in the listing for Khoj, it says that source was remade in Bengali with Uttam Kumar in a movie
Oh,
called Sesh Anka, which I have seen, but they handled the story so differently that I didn't catch it. I happened to look at that about halfway through and I was like, oh, I see it. I wish I hadn't, because if you've seen that, then you would know something about what's going on with this because it is.
Mm.
So even though I don't mind knowing the end of mysteries, I think I just shouldn't have looked, right? I was enjoying this one so much. So this is Rishi Kapoor plays a businessman who is from Delhi, but he and his wife are vacationing in Kathmandu. Their daughter goes to school in Nepal, and I don't even know how to explain what happens here without giving things away. So uh, Rishi comes home and it comes back to their vacation house, which I can't tell if they're renting or if they own it. Doesn't really matter. And his wife is missing and he can't find her anywhere. So he's, trying to figure out where she went. He goes to the police. At first, he meets comedy sergeant, Satish Shah, who has a twin brother with a very similar name who runs a hotel, and they're
Okay.
primarily in the hotel, which is where we meet Inspector Balbir Singh, who is Nasiruddin Shah. And if you're
Okay.
amused by the idea of Nasiruddin Shah as a like Punjabi police officer, me too.
Yeah.
Usual way. What an interesting meeting of powerhouses, right? Rishi
Yeah.
and Nasir it's a really fun combo, and because this is such a masala-y movie, although it's like it's a mystery, so it's not full tilt quackadoodle masala, but there's some, comedy moments and the songs are pretty lighthearted. Nasir gets a very lighthearted song singing at the wedding of one of the Satish or engagement, I forget which of one of the Satish Shah characters, and he's
Okay.
the lead guy dancing around, big grin on his face all the time. He plays his role very much for comedy quite a bit,
Mm.
kind of jolly, kind of lighthearted. And again, you're like, what an interesting casting choice. But it is really working for me, this movie.
Yeah.
I strongly encourage people to watch it. And again, if you want to be unspoiled about the mystery, you should bail out now. Don't look at Wikipedia, just go watch this film. It is on YouTube with English subtitles and also without. So people like me can watch it too. And then the basic gist is he can't find his wife. And then he comes back to his house after kind of going to the police and everything. Oh no, I'm sorry. He gets a message from a Father Anthony to go meet at a church because his wife is there. He goes there. Danny is the priest. And then he's like, here's your wife. And it's Kimmy Kutkar. That's not his wife. And he's like, what do you mean that's my wife? That's not my wife. But she knows the answer to every question that they try to trick her
Oh.
with. And so every time he says, "Oh, well, we'll go back to my house. We'll look at the pictures there, and that will prove that she's not my wife." The pictures are of her.
Oh.
They try to go find his wife's car, which he had reported stolen or missing. And they find the car, and she's like, "Oh, my driver's license will be in there." They find the car, and it is actually her driver's license, and her name is the same as his wife's name. So, what's going on?
Right.
Right. It's very entertaining. Very entertaining. So you see Rishi fight Danny, you see Rishi fight Nasir, you see here's what I want to say about Kimmy Katkar. As someone with no opinion of her, do you have an opinion of her?
I mean, she was always kind of like a so-called B grade actress because
Yeah.
I think she debuted with Tarzan, and so she was the stuff of most prepubescent boys' wet dreams.
Yeah.
In the skimpy outfits and stuff, and until Aishwarya Rai came along, if you had light eyes in Bollywood, you were always cast as the vamp. Right? Like you were
Yeah.
always the vamp, you were always the sexy siren. Aishwarya made green eyes acceptable for heroines. So she was always cast in those, and she's very naturally sexy
Yeah.
and beautiful. And so, but not much in terms of acting. And so she was always slotted in those roles. But I think she's good in those roles.
Yeah,
She just never had a chance to do anything else.
I thought she was good in this. So she's the person where you're like, all right, yeah, I can see you being in a Ramsey Brothers film. But
Yeah.
I actually thought she was really good in this.
Mhm.
And I won't say more again because of the mystery aspect. She has the most amazing late 80s wardrobe.
Yes.
And I took a lot of screen grabs and I'm going to take a lot more. She looks like like her outfits remind me of actual things that my Barbies had in the sort of
Right.
early to mid 80s. Like I kind of gave up on Barbie by about 1986 or so when I started to go to junior high. I was like, I'm too old for Barbie now, but I saved all my stuff and like but there's so many outfits I remember for Barbie and there were she just looks amazing. So she's got like a silver
Yeah.
mini skirt dress on with black lace tights and black ankle boots. She wears like
Ooh.
a hot pink ensemble with a bright blue jacket. She has bright yellow. She looks fantastic. This woman,
Yeah.
whoever did wardrobe had a lot of fun with her. And I thought she was good. And of course, the main thing here is kind of the unraveling of Rishi, as no one will
Mm.
believe him that his wife is missing, that this is not his wife, and everywhere he goes for proof, it's yanked out from under him, basically. So someone is really up to something in this movie, and it's a delight watching what it is. I'm going to put in a big caveat here. In the last 10 or 15 minutes or so, we find out what's been going on. And the courtroom grandstanding about this is just barf.
Okay.
I would fully recommend, as soon as we find out what's happened, just turn it off.
Okay.
Because the final chunk of the film undid a lot of my goodwill. And I suspect it's not, I don't know if it's in the British original, but I'm pretty sure it's not in the Bengali version. I haven't seen it for a while, but I don't remember. And I was like, why you gotta do this, Hindi cinema? Why you gotta ruin something so cool with
Yeah.
speechifying that makes no sense at all? And I was reminded of how angry I was at the courtroom scene in Dopati when Kajol, the
Oh
investigator,
yeah.
is also Kajol,
Oh,
or the
that was
prosecutor.
terrible.
It's like that level of yeah, it's just outrageous. It's outrageous what they choose to have these characters say. And it's not so much the legal decision or anything, it's the what they have characters say and kind of the excuses given for the crimes that have been committed. And
Oh.
it's just barf. But please watch this movie until the last 15 minutes or so. You'll know when to turn it off.
Okay.
Really fun. And I was looking to see, which Ramsey brothers is this. I forgot to go look in my friend Shamia Dasgupta's book about the Ramseys. I just completely forgot to go look up this film, but I'm going to after this. But this was directed by Keshu Ramsey, and he has done Haveli, Dak Bangla, Mera Shikar, Mahal, Saya, and Ashant. I've not seen all of those, but I've seen some of those. And the Ramseys took different turns doing
Right.
that. They do have their regular roles, but then not everybody does only that thing or whatever. So I don't know, obviously not all of theirs are directed by Keshu, because that's only a handful right there. So yeah, again, recommend, please watch this film. And then if you do watch it, listeners, please come chat with me about it, because I want to talk about this movie. It was so good.
So is it basically like some, because there's only two things that could be happening, right? One could be like for some reason there's this giant conspiracy against Rishi where like almost you could say like the whole town is like turning against him and people are like gaslighting him at every turn, or Rishi's out of his mind. And he's just like forgotten. And so is that what part of the fun of this movie is, just trying to figure out?
Like what is going on here?
Right.
Why is this happening? Because, once or twice you're like, okay, someone's lying, or someone is very crafty and switched a picture or something like that, but it just keeps going, and it's really very impressive.
I feel like Rishi would be a good choice for a role like this, especially because have you noticed like Rishi is very entertaining in films when he's huffy.
Yes, and he's huffy a lot in this film because he's rich and he's accustomed to getting his way.
Yeah.
I think he's like business dude, right? And you see him in a board meeting in the beginning of the film, which to my comprehension did not really play into much that's happening. But you just see him being all like, he shows up and everyone's like, "Hello, sir. Good morning, sir." And you're like, rich guy who talks about the flights he can get to Kathmandu. That's
Right.
airplane advertising going on there. But it
He's
really,
very like, I'm a Kapoor, you will do as I say. He's probably the most haughtiest of the Kapoors on screen, I would say.
and
Like,
that's one
right?
reason why pairing him with Nasir was so fun, and because Nasir is not doing his usual thing. And
Mm,
to be fair, I've not seen a lot of his masala films. I've seen a few here and there, but
mm.
this is not a type I've seen him do before. This kind of like, um, I was trying to think who might be a good example of someone to do this kind of cop, where they're kind of jolly but also don't cross them.
Okay.
Cop like that. I'm sure we've seen it, but it's not like a Shashi Kapoor cop. It's not
It's definitely not an Iftikhar cop.
it's not an Iftikhar cop. It might be kind of a Bomin Irani kind of cop,
Oh, yeah.
but Bomin Irani has never to me been menacing. And
Right.
this guy has a little bit of menace to him because in the beginning we see him beating up someone at the hotel who's been, who has sassed him, and he throws this big guy around and everything. And obviously that's a little stretch of the imagination, but we were fine with that in a fight in a Hindi film, right?
Yeah.
Um,
So I don't know if you've seen Trudev, the Rajiv Rai movie. Okay,
mm-mm.
so that is one of my favorite movies of all time. And you and I were both recently on Vikas's podcast on Let's Talk Melbourne, and you talked about Feroz Khan films, and I talked about Rajiv Rai films.
Mhm.
And both Vikas and I were going crazy talking about Trudev on that podcast because, like, we both love Trudev so much. So Trudev is one of those films where Nasir is in full on masala
Yeah,
mode,
yeah,
and he plays this like country bumpkin, and he has like a thick accent and everything, and he's jolly and he's happy, but he's also vindictive and out for blood. Like he wants to take down the arms smugglers and everything. And we're so used to seeing Nasir as like this very serious and uptight person who's just like bottled up all this anger. Like we're so used to seeing him as that, that
yeah,
when you see him just let loose in a masala film,
yeah,
it's kind of mind boggling and it's
yeah,
very entertaining.
yeah.
Like in Trudev, like one of my favorite things to watch is Nasir dancing in OAOA, Tirchi Topi Wale.
Oh,
Like he is having a blast and he has a big grin on his face, and he's not a good dancer by any means, but the steps he's given are fairly easy anyway. And
we
he's like,
spotted this one too. And
yeah,
that kind of like walk dancing, but
yeah,
he's really selling it. He's really lively and
yeah.
looked like he's having fun.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like like Tiruchi Topi Wale is fun to watch partly because of Sonam's like amazing costumes, but also because Nasiruddin Shah is really having the time of his life. And you see glimpses of that years and years later in Dirty Picture as well, right?
Sure.
Like the way he plays that role where he's like so snide and smarmy and sleazy and so full of himself, but also he's so funny. And then the way he dances in Ulala Tu Hai Meri Fantasy with Vidya Balan, I love his dance in that as well. So I mean, Nasir, I feel like we don't think of it
No.
when he's doing masala, but when he's doing masala, he really brings it.
He can be
Um,
really, really good. I feel like somewhere I've seen him kind of phone it in Masala, but I can't
mm.
remember which film it is. So don't listen to me about that. But he's so fun in this. Yeah.
Nice. And then you said you liked Kimi Katkar in this film. So she and Rishi Kapoor, do they have like a lot of good scenes together? Like my question is, can she hold her own in front of Rishi, who we know is a very good actor?
I think there are none of the scenes are very long. None of the exchanges are very long. So, and I think that was smart. First of all, it keeps you
Mm,
unstable about what's going on in the story, but also, she doesn't get a too much of a chance to be mowed over by him, which is
mm,
smart. They do have a song together. And this is another moment where it is distasteful because he's like, okay, you're my wife, then you owe me sex, basically. And
okay.
and I don't know what he was really gonna do, but like you've got that sort of rapey threat going on,
Okay.
and it's set to a song. The songs are, of course, Bapi Lahiri, and you're like, oh, Bapi, why?
Oh,
They're
I would love.
exactly, but like this is, and the lyrics are just over and over again. I love my wife, my wife, my wife, my wife, and the lyrics, according to this translation, say, I have a right over your body, I have a right over your heart, and you're like, that's yucky. He's
Oh,
trying to smoke her out, basically, right? To
okay.
how long she will put up the ruse of pretending to be his wife. Um, and no clothes are removed or anything, but it's a little yucky. And also, again, it's that, he's a little old for her.
Right. Is this Rishi in uncle mode? Because I forget, did you
It's
say what year this was released?
1989.
Oh,
So
he's in uncle mode.
he's what, 36, 37 or something by that time. He is
Yeah.
wearing a sweater a lot, but they are in Nepal, so it actually makes a lot of sense that he's
Right.
wearing a sweater. But yeah, no, this is not full uncle, but it's getting there.
Getting there.
But he's certainly very lively in it at all. He looks like he's having a pretty good time in this movie. I'm really curious about, and I can't wait to look at Shamia's book to learn about this. How did the Ramses get these big name people to be in this movie?
That was my first question. Like when you said it's a Ramsey Brothers movie and you said Rishi Kapoor, I was like,
Right.
those words do not go
No,
together.
No.
because that is a bigger paycheck that you have to give this man,
Yeah,
right?
and I wonder if the Ramses had like a deal that went through with someone that they had, here's X amount of money to make a couple films for us or something. I truly don't know. And again, I apologize for not looking it up. If I can find anything juicy in the book, I will type it into the
Comments.
description or the comments of this video on YouTube, or you can, hit me up over Bluesky and I will gladly share what I learn. Um, but yeah, and it's not that, you don't see, it's not like you watch it and you think, oh, this production budget, amazing. But it is nice. Like the houses that they're in seem good. They're definitely in, now I don't know my Kathmandu landmarks well, but at the end they're in one of those big squares with one of the big temples.
Mm.
Sure is one of the ones that got destroyed in an earthquake not too long ago.
Oh no.
Um, Although I know there's types of architecture, so I might be blending my sites together, and I was not sure exactly which one. But they're in one of these squares with a big temple, and they had the kind of final showdown is on one of those stairs, which is very effective. They are at that you can see the mountain views all around, so they're clearly filming significantly in Nepal. But there's nothing like mega glitzy or anything going on with this. And
Okay.
the cars look like very normal people cars. There's nothing, at least to my untrained eye, right? There's nothing
Mhm.
that seems. And in fact, there's a car chase, and one of the cars has like a little stuffed lamb hanging from the rear view mirror, and you're like, yeah, this is just somebody's car that they borrowed. there's, there's nothing special about these vehicles. So I think they spent their money on the actors and on
Hmm.
a good script. This script is great, I think,
Nice.
until the very end.
Right.
But the basics, and I think that, like I said, I think that ending is slapped on for the kind of popular Hindi audience. I don't think it's or I don't know if it's in the original. It's not in the Bengali. I also don't associate moralizing with the Ramsey brothers, so
Yeah.
it's a curious twist, and maybe that's what they thought they had to do since they had more mainstreamy stars. They had to do something more mainstreamy. I don't know, but then the stuff that is actually said in that segment is not, to my ears, was not typical. It's not like, oh, a sacrificing mother or something. It's not a speech I've heard before
Hmm.
that I can recall in a Hindi film, but it is sort of moralizing and stuff. So it's a weird ending. But please watch until that point.
I wonder if this was like the Ramses trying to go like full on mainstream. And
I
I
wonder.
wonder also if this was like Rishi, because in Kulam Kula in his autobiography, remember where there's the part where he talks about how his really close friend or like one of his best friends, Jitendra, around this time was doing a lot of movies in the South.
Yeah,
And basically they were paying for his like mortgage and everything, right? And
yeah,
he used to keep telling Rishi, like, you need to come down South and do these movies in Madras. Like they have these schedules and they just crank them out, and like it's financing my whole lifestyle because offers in the Hindi film industry were completely drying up
mm,
for both Jitendra as well as Rishi Kapoor at this point, right? And Rishi Kapoor famously has written in Kalam Kala that he couldn't be bothered. Like he was like, I can't be bothered. I'm like too lazy or whatever to go down south and do these schedules, these very grueling schedules. And I wonder if this was just a movie he did for the paycheck, where he was like,
could be.
interesting.
I'm trying to
I
I'm looking in my Kindle on my phone real quick to see if I can find out anything about this movie, but uh yeah, I
mm,
it could well be. It could well be. So maybe there's a little pocket of these in the late 80s, early 90s. I don't know, because he's still going pretty strong in mainstream at that point, right? So
yeah,
like, we haven't gotten to his to Diwana and things like that yet for
right.
so
And in 89, the Khans still were not like, they were still babies. They hadn't
right.
really like made their mark. It's like once you have the three Khans come on the scene, that's when it's like basically game over for the Rishis.
Yeah.
Um, so that's very interesting. Were there some other foresty films that you have enjoyed?
I mean, yes, but I feel like we've talked about a lot of them. So there's Bedia, of course,
I love Bedia.
the series Aranyak. Uh,
Mm.
I didn't have time to rewatch that whole thing. I really like the Ray film Days and Nights in the Forest. That
Oh
is,
yeah.
it would have been like, you'll have to believe me that it's green.
Right.
But having done one Ray for this project, I decided to change up a little bit. I'm sure those are the ones that came to mind for me immediately, but I'm sure there are many more.
Yeah. There's have you ever seen this film? I've never bothered to see it, and I don't know why, given that I love horror and also it's a
Yeah.
Red Chili's production, although Shah Rukh isn't in it. That's probably why I haven't seen it. It's called Kal.
Hmm.
um it's like they're all in a jungle and everything, and then they're being hunted and stuff. So I haven't seen Carl, but I did consider for a second maybe doing that, but I don't like the star cast of the film. And then there's another movie that I considered rewatching for this episode, which is Ravan, the one that has Vikram, Aishwarya
Oh,
Rai, and
yeah,
Abhishek Bachchan in it.
sure.
Because it's like, again, it's very green, and it's like shot in the south, and there's all those shots of like waterfalls, and there's the forest and everything, and there's the spookiness and the whole thing of like having, kidnapped somebody. I mean, it's just like, it's a good movie. It's got Aishwarya Rai, it's got Vikram. Like, what more do I want? And it's, good music, and it's Mani Ratnam. So that was a movie that I also thought of when I thought of green. What are some iconic green outfits that you like from Bollywood?
The Joda Akbar ones are strong to me,
Mm,
just because that movie is a textile fancier's
it's beautiful.
best friend, right? Which is one of the reasons I was tempted to rewatch it, because the more I learn about Indian textiles, the more,
Also, if you love jewels,
right.
beautiful jewels.
Yeah, and I could not remember some stunning emeralds from that film, but I'm sure they're there. So, and as a May baby, my birthstone is emerald. So I've always had, I do not own any, but had a special fondness for emeralds. But yeah, those were really the main ones. But I bet that you found some green outfits.
I think to me, the most famous green outfit is probably Kajal's outfit from Dilwale Dulhania Le Jayenge, the
Oh,
mehndi laga ke rakhna.
yeah.
Because she's literally worn this like mehndi green traditional like Punjabi outfit, and I feel like it was probably the first time in Bollywood cinema that we saw a heroine in a like big production, like a Yash Raj production, wearing like a traditional Punjabi outfit. Because usually Punjabi outfits in Hindi cinema are like, the salwar kameez, and that's most commonly what's worn. They very rarely have that like dhoti and the long kurta and the little jacket. Usually you just see like bhangra dancers or gidda dancers wearing that in film, but to see a heroine wearing that outfit, and especially green, I think was like kind of unusual, but she looked really beautiful in it. She pulled it off. And then there's another iconic green outfit that I actually despise, and it is the outfit from Hum Aapke Kaun that Madhuri Dixit wears, the green high neck long sleeve outfit with the white lehenga. It is so hideous
Yeah.
with like green dupatta. Like, it is seared in my brain, but not for good reasons. It is a terrible outfit. And I'm like, why would you do that to Madhuri? Like, if I was Madhuri and I was such a big star, I would put my foot down and say, I'm absolutely not going to wear this hideous like monstrosity. Give me something else. Like,
Mm.
or I'm locking myself in my vanity van. I'm not shooting this song. But yeah, I mean, those are probably the two most iconic green outfits I can think of. It's actually hard to think of like iconic green outfits in
That's a bad
Bollywood.
one. Yeah, I'm
That's
looking
a
at
bad one.
that. Is bad.
Yeah. um yeah, but I think those are the two main. And then I really love Aishwarya's sort of light pistachio green sari that she's worn in the Tamil movie Kandukonde Kandukonde, in the song Kannamuchi Enada, with
Yeah.
the middle parting
Yeah.
and the hair and the gajras. Oh, she looks so adorable in it. So yeah, I mean, I couldn't find a lot of like iconic green outfits, but those were the ones.
And I feel like it was kind of like with purple. They must be there. And for some reason, we're just not turning them up. And you and I are both wearing, so like if you're not watching on YouTube, I'm wearing an olive green shirt, and Pitu is wearing sort of a mint,
Minty.
slightly bluish green, lighter green shirt. And there's so many, I mean, green is one of my favorite colors. And I was a little confused that I don't have more in my wardrobe to put on for this. I think of myself as having a lot of green stuff, but apparently, or at least it's not, it's cold weather stuff that I've put away or something. But
Yeah,
I love greens, but yeah, why are not more outfits coming to mind?
I know. I look terrible in green, so I don't wear green. My wardrobe is basically 99% pink, so there's that. Usually when I'm getting ready for the evening or something and I'm going out and I'm like, what should I wear? And my husband's like, you should wear that pink dress you have. And I'm like, oh yeah. But like, which pink one? I have so many.
I was gonna say, I was looking for something in my closet the other day and I was like, oh, that would go well with pink. And then I was looking at my pink tops. I'm like, I have a lot of pink tops.
Right.
That'll be a
Okay.
fun episode when we do pink.
Yeah. I do you have anything else to add?
I mean, I feel like I should have some more thoughtful thoughts about the color green since it is, one of nature's biggest paint pots, right? Like, so
Mm-hmm.
many things are green. And I, for one, feel, I'm from the middle of the United States, which a lot of people don't think of as particularly green, but it's
It's so
crop
green.
green, right? And I've always lived in towns that have old trees and people have lawns and
Mm.
grass and all that kind of stuff. And the little bits of time I've spent in non-green environments, I miss it. I miss
Yeah.
I love seeing green. I love looking out the window and seeing the bright, like the bright grass in the yard and like
Yeah.
the violets that pop against the green grass and there's ivy and the new leaves are coming in and all that. I
Mhm.
love green. So I was surprised that this was a hard a hard thing to pick.
Yeah, it's interesting because like when I was thinking about like Indian films also that are very visually green, it's basically all these films that are set in like forests or like really small towns. Like anytime you have a movie that's set like in a big city, there's just not a lot of green because there's just so much deforestation. And when I think of a very green movie, I actually think of the Fellowship of the Ring from the Lord of the Rings
Sure.
trilogy because it's the Shire, right? It's just rolling crops and meadows and fields, and it's just so like bucolic and idyllic. And I also think of like a lot of the movies that are set in like Ireland and Scotland or in the English countryside, right? Or like the Cotswolds or something, and it's just like this beautiful sea of green. So,
I was trying to remember if so when you were talking about when you had told me you were going to do this film that had football in it, I was like, oh, a sports playing field is very often green.
mm,
And I think of and Chuck Day came to mind, and then I was trying to, but we've because I don't think we've talked about Chuck Day at length, but we have mentioned
mm-mm.
it a lot here and there, and we named that coach as one of our favorite, characters here and there. But I was trying to remember Australian sports uniforms are also often green with a little bit of
Um,
or vice versa. So I'm like, do the Australian women wear green and that? And I think they actually wear yellow with like a dark green. But um, yeah, sports is another interesting direction to take green in. So I'm glad you brought that in, even though
yeah.
the sports aren't the main point of the movie that you watched, but that
Right.
the
And
green.
also in this movie, the fields that they're playing, like where they're playing football and stuff, it's like mud. It's
Ah,
like
okay.
it's the earth. It's not like particularly green or anything. Yeah, but I do want to talk about Chuck Day at one point. And it's so funny, like I don't know about you, but I'm the least sporty person on the planet.
Yeah, very unsporty here.
Very unsporty. Like I lived in a football crazy country like Nigeria, zero interest in football. I lived in a cricket crazy country like India, zero interest in cricket. The college I went to actually in Mumbai is like super close to Wankhede Stadium.
Oh,
And yeah, like big cricket days, the streets would just be flooded with like cricket fans, right? Like you couldn't avoid them. Wankhede was so close. And you always knew what match, like I didn't know match days when there were match days like in general, but you couldn't miss it once you were on your way to college or
right.
coming back. And like zero interest in that as well. But some of my favorite films are sports films. Like I
Mm.
love A League of Their Own. I love Field of Dreams. What a wonderful movie. Like I literally want a t-shirt that says if you build it they will come. I like Chuck the India a lot. There's just something about like teams and like the camaraderie and all for one and one for all. Have you seen the American TV show Friday Night Lights? It's about football. I love it.
I know everyone I know loves that film or that
It's
show. I don't know what someone would have to say to get me to watch it. I'm not interested.
but
I
it's so
don't know
sweet.
yeah, and so like you, I feel like I give you a bit of a pass because you did not grow to American high school, so you've not already
No.
dealt with this crap. Um, so I fully rejected football and that kind of thing when I was in high school. And I know it's about more than that, blah, blah, full hearts, blah, blah, can't lose. Like I
Yes.
know, but I think that's a particular sentimentality that's not going to work on me. If it were
Okay.
about a different sport, I'd be much more interested, right? And like I loved bowling
Oh.
for a while because that was the music equivalent in a way, right? Because you're like coaching these kids to do better
Yeah.
thing that, so I'm not immune to the sports movie template at all, but I just refuse to watch that show.
So what is it about football that annoys you? Like do you like baseball? Like,
mean,
because Field of Dreams is a
don't,
baseball movie.
yeah, I don't like football in general, but
Mm.
especially the more that comes to light about the concussion problem, like it's a horrible sport to have
Yeah.
anybody play, but especially kids. It's associated with certain brands of American sort of machismo that I think are
Mm.
very off-putting. It is at least at the high school level, most of the time, it is the pinnacle of boys will be boys,
Oh yeah.
violent, you know, bros before, just like
Mm.
it's just yuck. Everything
Mm.
about it is yuck to me. I also find it very boring to watch because they pause like they make one play and pause forever. I grew up in a baseball house, so I have
Okay.
higher tolerance for baseball, but baseball, to my knowledge, at least in American, before you get to university, and even in most universities, baseball is just not as big a deal. That's not
Right.
always true, but it's usually true. So it's boys who get to be privileged because of the sport that they play, and then and it's not just the kids, it's the way the adults treat the kids and what the adults let the kids get away.
Mm.
It's like a culture of, well, it doesn't matter what they do as long as they're good athletes, and that's not.
Yeah.
And as your movie gets at, all it takes is one unlucky twist of your ankle and your athletic career is over. So all the pampering you
Right.
got and all the privileges you got are taken away from you for no, and you could be like the best human in the world and that could still happen to you. So like this kind of overemphasis on being good at a particular sport when, and even if you're a good athlete, most high school football stars are not going
They
to
don't make it
the
pro.
NFL. And even if they make it to the NFL, they don't really get to play very much. And then they get
Yeah.
crushed, and it's just like, it's all a very horrible system, I think. So that's
Like,
why I resist Friday Night Lights.
so in Friday Night Lights, in fact, the guy who in the beginning of the show is like sort of big man on campus. He is like their main. What is that person called? It's the QB. He's the
Quarterback.
quarterback.
Mhm.
And he's like, he has good grades. He's popular. He's a lovely human being. Like, he's wonderful. Like, he's almost set up as like the hero in a way. And
Yeah.
he has like a really bad accident and he becomes wheelchair bound.
Mhm.
And now he has to go work in like a car dealership. And like all of his hopes of like going
Yeah.
to college or like going pro and everything, it's all gone. And now he has to adjust to life as a car salesman in a small town in Texas. And it's almost like how the mighty have fallen. But it's very sad to see. And he's like a really lovely person. But again, like you were saying, like it's twist of fate. And my husband actually did his MBA at like a big four school, and he was a TA and he was there on a scholarship. So he was, what is that person called? The dorm manager?
So the resident advisor,
Yes, he
the
was a
RA.
resident advisor. He was a RA, but he was also a TA. Basically, he did all the things he could to get like lodging and boarding and everything to like, like graduate school with like least amount of bills and stuff, right?
Yeah.
And he, for a while, to make extra money, was giving math tuitions
Mhm.
to football players because it's a big four school. And he literally was alarmed the first time they were very, very sweet, but he said like their comprehension levels, he was shocked by them. Like, these guys were like maybe like 2 years younger than my husband, and the most basic math concepts that my husband would try to teach them, they would just have no idea what he was talking about.
This
And
is,
at one point he
yeah.
was like, okay, I just need you to pass. So I'm not gonna like expect you to do super well, but I do need you to pass. So I'm gonna do. And they were very sweet, and they would give him like passes to like their
Yeah.
football games and everything. So he would get like free passes and stuff. And they would come, they would study. But he was astounded at how poor their
This
schooling
is,
until then had been. And he
yeah.
literally, I remember saying this to me. He was like, I really hope he goes pro, because I don't know what he's going to do if he doesn't,
Right.
because this person has, I don't know how he's going to get a job because he does not understand basic stuff.
This is another issue with football in particular, and to a certain extent basketball in the United States, because in baseball, there's the farm team system where you can go and play for
Oh,
these lower ranking teams that are in the much smaller areas. So, like, there's one in Peoria, Illinois, for
oh
example,
yeah, I know
and
Peoria.
you can rise through that into the major leagues.
Okay.
But football and basketball don't have that. So the universities and colleges become the sort of, so you've got these kids who really want to be pro athletes, but there's not a system to funnel them in other than this. So then they're at university when they have no right to be at that university, right? A lot of these schools that are like, so somewhere like Michigan, right, which is a very good school, you've got these kids who are there to,
That's my husband's school.
right? You've got these kids to play who are there to play sports. They wouldn't have gotten in otherwise. And it's
Yeah,
not
they
good
don't.
to, it's not fair to them either.
No.
And I also have friends who tutored the big athletes at the when that so sorry, my friends did the like everybody but football and basketball. So they had like tennis, gymnastics, volleyball,
Okay.
whatever. So those were people for the most part who had actually gotten into the school based on their grades and they were gonna so but yeah, but this it's a very abusive system in all sorts of ways in the
Right.
United States. So that is and also as someone who comes from an academic family, like the amount of money that gets pumped into those things. And there's always this like, but they earn their money back. They do not. Universities put way more money into sports than they ever get back. So it's a real money sink as well. And it's
I do want to watch that movie Concussion, the one that has Will Smith in it. It's supposed to be really good. I just feel like I'm gonna have to sort of gird my loins to watch it because I'm not sure. Have you seen it? Is it like really harrowing? Mm.
no, I haven't, but I can just imagine because this is I don't know how long the conversation about concussions in football playing students has been going on. I certainly was not aware of it when I was in high school in the
Yeah.
early 90s, but um it just would explain so much and it's horrible the thing that they were asking children to do to their bodies and for what? Sports glory? Like
Yeah. I mean, isn't there a similar conversation that they have about rugby in England?
I would assume so. I
Yeah, and they don't even wear the helmets.
don't. And this is all tied to like certain versions of masculinity and whatnot that are to use the phrase fairly toxic, I think, in a lot of ways. But um, because you just don't see the problems happening at the same scale in
Hmm.
other sports. So like, but obviously there's, horrible abuse of children in gymnastics as we
Yes.
learned. And like I don't know about sexual assault in, say, tennis, for example, where people start very young and you've got teenagers who are winning, Grand Slam titles, but you do hear about the power abuse by their coaches and things.
Hmm. Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's just sports can be a really hard sell, which is why something like Chuck Day, which is just heartwarming and like, clearly the stakes in Chuck Day are solely personal
Yeah.
because the nation gives no crap about them whatsoever. They
Mm-mm.
barely have a team, they barely have a facility to practice in.
Hmm.
Very perfunctory. And that I think is where you can have the most fun with those kinds of stories.
Yeah. I think so one of my favorite Indian like pop culture people is Madhu Sapre,
Mm.
who was a big supermodel and she was I think she was a runner up at the Miss Universe title or whatever. And she's an athlete, so she's won multiple awards for swimming basically. And I think for also badminton or something, but mostly for swimming. And she lost the title, she lost the Miss Universe contest or whatever because when they asked her what she would do like with I mean it's such a nonsense question, right? Like what is a beauty queen going to do anyway? But like whatever. The answer you're supposed to give is something to do with like world peace or like education. Like, there's these like canned answers you're supposed to give and everybody knows that. And Mother Sapre of course had to go out on a limb and talk about something she's really passionate about. And she gave her answer about something to do with like sports and how women should do more sports and how there should be like more facilities and infrastructure for sports. And a lot of people, including myself, were like, yes, this is a great answer,
Yeah.
especially in for a country like India, where girls who really love sports are not encouraged to play for the most stupidest of reasons, like, oh, if you play badminton or tennis or something, you'll become dark complexion. What boy will marry you? Or you want to wear shorts and a tank top, but you're 13, you can't wear, like, bullshit stuff like that. So everybody loved her answer, but of course she lost because her answer was not world peace.
And it doesn't make
Um,
you realize how much I want to rewatch Dangal. I
oh,
loved
yeah,
Dangal when it came out. I've never re-seen it.
I love that
I
movie.
saw it in the cinema with a friend. We both were bawling our eyes out. We saw it on Christmas
Yeah.
Day, and then we went and had pizza. And it was like such a good day. And I just love that movie.
It's so
I don't
good.
remember Green in that. I don't
It's
remember.
mostly just brown.
When like the wrestling ring when they're inside, I don't
Yeah.
remember what color it is, but I didn't even think about something like that. I was thinking about the outdoor sports, but I was
But it has that
outdoor
song in it, बापू सेहत के लिए तू तो हानिकारक है, हम पे थोड़ा रहम तो कर, हम नन्हे बालक है. It's so cute. And the first time I heard it, I couldn't understand this one word because I was singing along to it. It's a really good bop, right? And I'm singing along to it, and I'm like, what is this word? And I had to Google it. And the word was discipline because they keep saying discipline itna. They're like discipline itna. Some things हानिकारक है. I was like, what is discipline? And and I was like, oh, it's discipline. And for a while, I was saying discipline. It's like, I'm very disciplined person. It's like how I'm going to say country fellow to everybody now.
Um, I have discovered while doing some quick looking while we've been chatting about why the movie I watched was the way it is, perhaps,
Oh,
is that Keshu Ramsey was deliberately trying to distance himself from the other Ramsey brothers, and he is the producer of the Kiladi movies.
is he? Okay, that's
So he's
that's a good
kind of a
pivot.
so he has a so apparently according to Shamya's book, like once he gets Akshay Kumar into his fold, he really wants very little to do with his the rest of his family. So the
Wow.
movie I watched is a Ramsey film, but not nearly in the same way, and very much by design, not the same as the others,
That's so interesting. There has to be some good gossip about him, like
right?
basically looking down his nose on the rest of the
That's
Ramses, and
kind of
he's
what
like,
the
I'm too
book
good for y'all.
That's kind of what the book implies. And if you have not read Don't Disturb the Dead about the Ramsay brothers, please read it. It's very good.
Okay.
He got to interview a lot of the family members who were still alive when he wrote it. Like there's a lot of good stuff in there. So, if I can
Nice.
find a good couple of screen grabs from it. I'll put them. Can we put images in our comments? I don't remember, but
No, I don't think so. But you can put them on Blue Sky.
I'll put them on Blue Sky. And please do read that book. It's really entertaining. But
Nice.
they're such an interesting. Like you can't really talk about Indian cinema without talking about them also, right? Like
You
no, they're not
can't.
the tours, but like they are a significant part and there's so many people who enjoy those films, even if they don't necessarily bring them up when they talk about.
Yeah.
But of course, there are a lot of us who will gladly talk about Ramsey Brothers films. So
Right. We need to do a Ramsey Brothers episode. And also this conversation that we had, I really want to do a sports episode as well. Maybe you can rewatch Dangal for that episode.
I would, yeah.
Okay.
Maybe there's a sports. So someone recently asked me, Beth, are there any good Bollywood films out right now? And I was like, I have no
No.
idea. I haven't been to the theater to see an Indian film all of 2025. I have no idea what's coming out. I've written a few things on my calendar because I read that something was coming, but now I don't remember what they are. So
No.
I just feel like I'm totally under a rock, but I'm fine with it.
I'm fine with that. I just have so many old movies I can
Yeah.
catch up on. Plus, there's this new like Malayalam cinema jaunt that I'm on. So
Oh,
there's that. You know what's another movie that movie genre that has a lot of green in it is all of the Nag movies that we love, all the snake films.
why didn't I
Because
watch a snake movie?
why didn't you watch Nagan again?
There's so many, and of course, they often have amazing green outfits.
Yes.
Oh,
And
you're
there's
right.
always snakes slithering around the forest and the trees and
Yeah.
dangling from
And
trees.
they have gems and they
They
have
have gems.
sparkly jewelry and green outfits
Yeah.
and green nature. Oh my God. And green eyes. Some of them will get the green,
Yes.
right?
Rina Roy with the iconic green
Right.
contact lenses
What
and
was
Sri
the
Devi with the blue.
Mhm.
Yeah. But that's okay. We can get our fill of Nag movies.
Well,
There's so many
maybe
topics.
from Nog Punch Me, maybe we can do a snake
Yes.
episode.
My uncle was actually born on Nag Panchami Day, which I think I was like, that is a terrible birthday to have when I was little. I said that because other people in my family were born on like Diwali Day, like on Dhanteras and on Holi and on Ganesh Chaturthi, and
Uh,
then there's my uncle born on Nag Panchami.
let's just call it auspicious. I love it.
Yes, very auspicious, and he did have gray eyes, so there's that.
What
Christmas.
is your favorite green ice cream or other dessert?
Okay, so my absolute favorite ice cream flavor of all time is mint chocolate chip, and that's green. So there's that. I also do enjoy a good pistachio gelato, but it has to be gelato because unfortunately I just don't like pistachio ice creams that I taste because they feel very artificial to me.
Yeah.
But I like pistachio gelato and I do like pistachio kulfi as well.
Hmm.
But and then I love pan ice cream.
I
Um,
had that.
so our friend Luncharoni, I got her hooked on pan ice cream, and now anytime she's going to Jersey, so she lives in Brooklyn. Anytime she's going to Jersey, she goes to like the Indian store to like stock up. She gets these like big dabbas of like pan ice cream from there.
Mm.
What about you?
Well, I also enjoy mint chocolate chip ice cream. It's not one that I
Mm.
tend to remember to order, but if I'm
Mm.
presented with it, I'm very happy. I like it very much. I think mine is going to be I was reminded the other day I went to an event that had catering from a local Italian restaurant, and they had cannoli with pistachios like on the ends of the cannoli, and I had
Ooh,
one. I was like, oh, this is
yummy.
this is really good. So yeah, I love a pistachio. I love spumoni ice cream with the pistachio.
Mm.
Yeah, pistachio. I love all the Indian pistachio things I've ever had. So
Yeah.
pistachios are beautiful color. Uh,
Yeah.
it's so so tasty.
Yes. Okay. I think that concludes this episode of Filmy Ladies. What is the next color we'll be doing? Yellow?
Yellow.
Oh, I have to think about what my I
I
know you have already decided. You already know your yellow, red, and pink movies, right?
and orange. Hmm.
Oh my God, you're way ahead of me because I have not thought of any of these. But okay. I will we will see all of you next week again and then let us know what you think of have you seen Khoj? Have you seen other Ramsey movies? Have you seen Sudani from Nigeria? Do you agree with my husband that Fahad Fazil is the best ever? And should I also get on the Fahad Fazil train as he's nagging me to? And then what are some iconic green outfits that you like from Indian movies? We'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.